Well, it's once again time for us to talk about Inside Job, a show that I was pretty hard on in my initial review of its first season. The first season, I was pretty hard on because I felt like it fell into a lot of pitfalls that adult animated shows fall into, where you have characters whose whole personalities are based around drinking and enjoying drugs because it's an adult cartoon. We're gonna drink a beer. I love alcohol and drug. It's just lazy and it's played for really, really cheap laughs, and those cheap laughs can cheapen the overall quality of the show as a whole the more you use them. And on top of that, there was a ton of reference humor in the first season of this show. There's more in the second season, but it's less egregious. I feel like there's a few jokes in this second season that are definitely outdated at the time of release. I watched this show when it first came out and then I got sick, hence my voice being a little bit shaky for this review. So I've had some time to think about it, and I wasn't too angry over a lot of the reference humor that was used in this second season, or frustrated. There's an okay boomer joke in like the first episode, and that immediately just dated the show for me, which is why I don't think using reference humor is a very good idea. I think you have to have the humor come from the show itself, but I did a whole video on that subject, so I'll leave it there. I don't like the reference humor in Inside Job. I don't think I ever will. It's less egregious in the second season, but it's one of the reasons I was so hard on Inside Job in season 1. And I feel like I was too hard on it because there was a lot of good in that first season, and I kind of beat down on it a little bit too much for that reference humor. So I'm going to pull back a little bit, especially with the knowledge now of seeing some other shows on Netflix that are far worse than Inside Job, like Big Mouth or Farzar. Those two shows just lean into the laziest forms of comedy, played out jokes. They're genuinely hard to watch, but I enjoyed watching season 2 of Inside Job. It had interesting relationships with Reagan and her new boyfriend. It had an interesting big plot at the end, a big culmination, a big climax to the season that was really interesting and was emotional on top of that. And the show got me to genuinely laugh from episode to episode. There were funny parts in every single episode, although some of the plots are kind of played out. There's like a high school, college reunion plot line for the mushroom character, whatever his name is, I can never remember it. It's really played out to do that plot line, and for a show like Inside Job, that's about, a secret corporation that's pulling all the strings, I don't want to have played out plot lines because you have such a cool premise. Why put them in a scenario that we've already seen? You can do all this crazy stuff with Cognito Corp and the Illuminati and all these different, subventures of the deep state, or whatever you want to call it, whatever they call it in the show. There's a lot of cool stuff to do there, and they explore some of it, but they also fall back into some of those lazy plot lines from time to time. And speaking of overused plot lines, there's an episode in this second season that I feel like was ripped off directly from Dan Harmon. Not just like one of Dan Harmon's shows, because it's a plotline he's used a couple of times, and I'm sure other shows have used too. In Community, one of Dan Harmon's shows, there's an episode where there's like a zombie outbreak at a Halloween party. The Inside Job episode has sort of a zombie outbreak at a Halloween party. And then there's an episode of Rick and Morty, of course, where Morty gets a potion to make Jessica love him. That same sort of plot line is fused together with that Community plot line to make its own kind of hodgepodge episode that works for the characters, but is also really, really predictable. And for a show that's about conspiracy theories and all this crazy stuff, the last thing you want to be is predictable. But I am happy to say that the show finds its footing as it goes along. It's actually building up to something, which was really enjoyable to watch. It was an interesting relationship being developed between Reagan, an interesting plot line with this reboot thing they're working on. Staying away from spoilers, I'm not gonna go into any specifics on this stuff because it's just a spoiler-free review. Nice little quick review, but I feel like they were actually building towards something interesting, and for the first time in a while, I think a shorter season benefited a show, especially having to sit through some agonizing shows like Farzar and Big Mouth season 6, like I said. 8 episodes moving towards something that you're looking forward to, I'll take that 100 times over 10 episodes that are kind of just meandering from plot to plot. I easily enjoyed Inside Job better with just its 8 episodes than having to sit through the 10 episodes of Farzar or the 10 episodes of Big Mouth. I feel like 8 was a good amount for what they had here, and it did, in fact, leave me wanting more, which is exactly what you want to do if you're making a show on Netflix where they're just canceling stuff willy-nilly. So I have a lot of the same issues with Inside Job when it comes to that reference humor, overused plot lines, not exploring the cognito side of things, the deep state side of things, the conspiracy theory side of things as much as I would like them to. But they made up for it with the relationships between Reagan and her new love interest, with Reagan and her father, and with the kind of rivalry they build up more so with the Illuminati versus Cognito Inc. I think that all played really well, and it made the season a lot more enjoyable than that first one. Overall, I feel like the plots definitely need to be ironed out. They just need to explore that conspiracy theory side of things more in season 3. You need to explore Reagan's character more, because one problem I had in season 1 was they kind of romanticized overworking, especially with Reagan's character, where she has the bags under her eyes and they make direct references to it. And that always kind of irked me, because you don't want to romanticize like crunch and overworking, and they backpedal on that a little bit in this second season with a really great emotional moment that I won't spoil, but they definitely take that romanticization and kind of bring it into reality a bit and be like, well, if you're overworking yourself constantly and to the point where you're getting yourself hurt, it's not a good thing. Actually, it's a bad thing. We shouldn't be looking up to people that are doing that. We should tell them, hey, you're overdoing it a bit. And so I'm glad they walked that back a little bit. It did seem like they learned some lessons from season 1. They did pull off a little bit from that lazy character design with the one scientist character whose whole character is just he likes drugs and alcohol. That's his entire character. They pulled back from that a bit. It's still there. It's still frustrating. I feel like you just need to have an episode where you focus on that character and you kind of get him out of that slump and you give him a little bit more to, work with, because right now that character is just incredibly played out, especially in adult animation. But all in all, I enjoyed this season, and I would recommend Inside Job seasons 1 through 2. Watch them back to back. I think you will definitely enjoy yourself. If I had to give it a score out of 10, probably like a 7.5, 8, floating around there. It still has its issues. I'm confident they can work them out into season 3. The 8 episodes makes it an easy watch. There's some fun stuff here. There's definitely some funny moments and a lot of interesting character stuff to make you sit down and really enjoy it. So that's where I'll leave it. Go check out Inside Job. Don't watch the new season of Big Mouth or Big Mouth at all. Don't watch Farzar. I'm still contemplating if I'm going to do an actual review of Farzar or if I'm just going to let it go, because some other people have done reviews of Farzar and I feel like they covered it pretty well. So if you want to see me talk about Farzar, an awful show that's like 1 out of 10 terrible, I can. Let me know down in the comments below. And anything else you want me to check out, post down there as well. I try to read every comment on this channel, so don't be shy. Yours will hopefully not be overlooked. But thank you very much for watching this video. Like and subscribe to become a cow, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.